Picture this. You wake up one morning and realize that everything you thought you knew about love was actually a carefully crafted illusion. The fairy tale romance, the perfect relationship, the idea that if you just try hard enough, love will reward your efforts. All of it, nothing more than stories we tell ourselves to avoid facing a much deeper truth. Today, we're rediving into one of the most profound insights about human nature that most people spend their entire lives running from. This isn't just about relationships. This is about the very core of what makes us human and why so many of us feel fundamentally empty despite having everything we thought we wanted. If you've ever felt like you're performing in your relationships, constantly trying to earn love through what you do rather than who you are, this message is going to hit you like a lightning bolt. And if you've ever wondered why some people seem to effortlessly attract genuine love, while others struggle despite giving everything they have, you're about to discover the hidden mechanism that controls it all. Here is the uncomfortable truth that society doesn't want you to know. Most of what we call love isn't love at all. It's a transaction dressed up in romantic language. And until you understand this distinction, you'll keep finding yourself in relationships that drain you, disappoint you, and ultimately leave you questioning whether you were ever truly loved or just temporarily useful. Let's start with the paradox that defines human relationships. To love someone is unconditional. It flows from your being without requiring anything in return. But to be loved, that almost always comes with conditions, spoken or unspoken. This creates a fundamental imbalance that most people never recognize. And it's the source of more heartbreak than any other single factor in human relationships. Think about your own experiences. How many times have you found yourself walking on eggshells, trying to be the perfect partner, the ideal friend, the flawless employee? How often have you modified your behavior, suppressed your true feelings, or given parts of yourself away in hopes that it would secure someone's love and approval? This is love, you re-experiencing it as a business transaction where affection is the currency. And your authentic self is what you retrading away. By the time you reach your 30s or 40s, if you're honest with yourself, you've seen enough of life to recognize the cracks in these fairy tale promises. You've watched people pour themselves completely into relationships, giving everything they have, only to watch that love slowly leak away through the fingers of someone who once held them close. You've seen couples who share the same roof yet feel like strangers at their own dinner table. You've witnessed the endless cycle of people jumping from relationship to relationship, thinking the next person will finally fill that hollow space inside, only to find the same emptiness echoing back at them. The reason this happens is that we've been taught to confuse the structure that holds love with the living essence of love itself. From our earliest memories, the world whispered its bargain into our ears. Love is something you earn. Behave correctly and you'll be cherished. Meet someone's needs and they'll keep you around. Offer beauty, strength, usefulness, devotion, and love will be your reward. But this transactional approach creates relationships built on shifting sand. Like two merchants bound by contract, people stay together as long as the terms are being met. When they're not, they part ways, no matter how many years have passed or how deeply their lives have become intertwined. Eventually, that invisible ledger gets brought to the table, and the emotional accounting begins. Many people wake up in their middle years to the cold recognition that what they believed was love was actually just an elaborate arrangement. It might have been blessed in ceremony, celebrated with flowers, sealed with trembling promises of forever. But at its heart was a simple pact. I'll give you what you desire if you give me what I desire. And when the giving stops, whether through exhaustion, aging, illness, or simple change, the warmth fades. The most painful part isn't the loss itself, but the realization of what was never there to begin with. When you've spent years believing someone loved you for who you are, only to discover they loved you for what you provided, it doesn't just end the relationship. It unravels something fundamental inside you. It leaves you staring at the wreckage, wondering if you were ever truly seen and valued, or if you were simply a useful presence in someone's life. This is why so many relationships that look perfect from the outside slowly deteriorate into cold politeness or bitter resentment. When love is treated as a performance, eventually the performance becomes exhausting. When affection is conditional on meeting someone's needs, what happens when you can no longer meet those needs? When your worth is tied to your usefulness, what occurs when life inevitably changes you? The gaze that once lingered lovingly begins to glance past you as if you've become a shadow in the room. The laughter gets replaced by watchful silence. The shift is so subtle, you can almost convince yourself it's not happening. But in that stillness, you finally see it clearly. You were cherished not for your being, but for your service. And when the service can no longer be rendered in the same way, the mask falls away. This reveals something even more disturbing. When the terms of the emotional contract are no longer being met, some people will show you who they really are underneath all that tenderness you thought was natural to them. What you may discover is not necessarily cruelty, but a hollowness where genuine love was never rooted in the first place. So, what is real love, if not this elaborate system of emotional commerce we've all been participating in? True love is freedom, the liberty to give without keeping a ledger. Without demands, without the fear that it must be returned in equal measure. It's the ability to be fully present with another person, not to bind them to you, but to care for them simply because the caring itself brings joy. Real love is a gift given without the shadow of a contract. It doesn't watch and measure and wait for returns. It does and keep score of who has given more or worry about whether the investment is paying off. But here's the paradox that changes everything. Such love cannot be given by someone who is starving for it themselves. The heart that desperately needs to be loved back will always, in some hidden way, attach strings to its giving. It will watch for signs of reciprocation. It will measure responses. It will wait for proof that the love is being returned. And when that proof doesn't come in the expected form, bitterness begins to grow like ivy through the soul, choking out the very love it was meant to protect. You cannot love freely until you stop begging for love in return. And you cannot stop begging until you find within yourself a source that does undepend on another person's approval or affection. That source isn't found in someone else's eyes or in their validation of your worth. It exists in the quiet recognition that you are already loved by the very force that brought you into existence. Call it God, call it the universe, call it the nameless mystery of existence itself. Whatever brought you into being did so without conditions, without requirements, without demanding that you first prove your worth. Look at how the sun shines. Even after all this time, the sun never says to the earth, "You owe me." Look at what happens with that kind of unconditional giving. It lights up the entire sky. When you truly understand this, you can stand unshaken whether others love you or turn away. You're no longer dependent on their affection for your sense of worth. Then and only then can you give love the way the sun gives light. Not to be thanked, not to create debt, but because it cannot help itself. This is when love becomes your freedom rather than your prison. The ability to love flows from your own being. No one can take it from you because it doesn't depend on them. It's the overflow of the life that moves through you. You can give it to one person, to many people, or to the whole world. But it remains yours to give because it springs from within you. But being loved, that's entirely different. That's never in your control. You cannot command it, purchase it, or reason it into existence. Love offered to you is always a gift that arrives according to its own mysterious timing. It comes when it will and leaves when it must, like wind that brushes your cheek. You can open your arms to it, but you cannot hold it there by force. If love is offered to you, receive it with gratitude. Drink deeply while it flows, but never clutch at it as if it were the last drop of water in the world. The moment you try to drag love from someone's reluctant hands, it stops being love and becomes something else entirely. Obligation, pity, or emotional bondage. Remember this fundamental truth. You are already loved, not by the changeable tides of human emotion, but by the source from which you came. Life itself breathed you into existence without requiring you to earn it first. When you truly see this, you realize you're never completely bereft, never entirely unloved. Regardless of what any human relationship brings or takes away, if you want love from others, it must begin with loving yourself. Not in the shallow sense of self-indulgence, but in the deep sense of accepting your own existence without reservation. A heart that has made peace with itself no longer begs for love from others. It invites it. And when two such hearts meet, their connection isn't a desperate trade, but a meeting of rivers, each full from its own spring. Imagine what happens when two people who have learned to be at peace within themselves come together. They don't arrive at each other's doorstep as beggars with empty bowls outstretched. They come as people carrying abundance that naturally spills over. In this kind of union, there's no bargaining, no scorekeeping, no quiet dread about who owes what to whom. Love flows as naturally as breathing, as rhythmically as tides that rise and fall without being commanded to do so. The joy comes not from taking, but from sharing. There's no hunger in the eyes, only light. People give, not because the other person demands it, but because giving has become the most natural expression of their being. Both are nourished not by one draining into the other, but by the overflow of each. This is the only kind of love that doesn't eventually rot into resentment. Where there's no inner emptiness demanding to be filled, there's no fear of losing what you have. When two complete hearts meet, they're free to let each other grow, change, wander, and return without the desperate grasping that turns love into a cage. But such meetings are rare because most people search the world trying to find someone who will complete them, not realizing they were never half a person to begin with. Only when you drink deeply from your own inner well will you find others who drink from theirs. And together, you won't merely survive. You'll overflow into a richness that benefits everyone around you. Here is something profound to consider. The world you encounter each day is separate from you. It is a reflection of your inner state. You cannot draw from a well what isn't already in it. You cannot meet in others what you haven't yet discovered within your own heart. If you carry emptiness inside, you'll find yourself surrounded by people who take from you. Not because the universe is conspiring against you, but because nature fills a vacuum. Those who have nothing will naturally seek from you what you haven't given to yourself. And in your own neediness, you'll mistake their hunger for love. But if you move through life with an inner fullness, you'll encounter others who also carry their own abundance. They won't clutch at you or drain you because they're not living on emotional scraps. Instead, you'll find ease in their company, a recognition as if you've always known them. This isn't mystical nonsense. It's a simple truth about human connection. The depth to which you've honestly faced yourself determines the depth to which you can meet another person. Most arguments in relationships aren't really between two people, but between the unexamined shadows each person has brought along without realizing it. So, before you go searching for kindness, tenderness, or devotion in someone else's eyes, turn inward and meet your own gaze. Not to condemn yourself or catalogue your flaws, but to become acquainted with the parts of yourself you've been carrying in silence. It's this hidden inner self that extends invitations to others. This unseen presence that determines whether the love you encounter will nourish your soul or slowly unravel it. When this truth really takes root in your understanding, don't keep it to yourself. Share it gently with the young people in your life, because they're stepping into the same illusions that once trapped you. Teach them that love isn't the trembling romance of popular songs or the solemn bargain sealed before altar and law. It's the willingness to give without hidden demands, to care without constant fear of loss. If they don't learn this distinction, they'll build their emotional homes on sand and watch them crumble when storms come. But if they do understand it, they'll stand on solid rock. And love will not be a cage that confines them, but a sky that gives them room to soar. The question isn't, how can I find someone to love me? The real question is, how can I become someone who overflows with love? When love is no longer a desperate plea, but a natural gift. When your joy is no longer chained to someone else's approval. You'll discover that the ability to love and be loved isn't something you have to chase down like a fugitive. It's the way you already are. Underneath all the conditioning, you are not half a person searching for your other half. You are already whole. From that wholeness, love flows naturally, finding those who recognize its authenticity instantly. Then love stops being a hunt, a bargain, or a desperate attempt to hold on to something. It becomes like the quiet, steady light of the sun, needing nothing in return, yet warming everything it touches. The deepest irony is that when you stop needing love so desperately, you become magnetic to the kind of love that's actually worth having. When you're no longer trying to fill a void through someone else, you attract people who aren't trying to use you to fill theirs. This creates relationships based on overflow rather than need, on abundance rather than scarcity, on freedom rather than fear. This shift changes everything. Not just your romantic relationships, but every human connection you make. Your friendships become deeper because you're not secretly keeping score. Your family relationships improve because you're not constantly trying to earn approval. Your professional relationships become more authentic because you're not performing for acceptance. Most importantly, you stop living with that background anxiety that whispers you're not enough, that you need to do more, be more, give more, to deserve love. You realize that your fundamental worth isn't up for negotiation, isn't dependent on your performance, and can't be taken away by someone else's opinion of you. From this place of inner stability, you can finally offer the world your authentic gifts instead of whatever you think will make you lovable. You can take risks, express your truth, follow your genuine interests, and build a life that actually reflects who you are rather than who you think others want you to be. This is the path from emotional poverty to abundance, from desperate seeking to generous giving, from the exhausting performance of earning love to the natural expression of being love itself. It's not an easy journey because it requires facing the parts of yourself you've been avoiding. But it's the only journey that leads to the deep satisfaction your soul has always been seeking. The love you've been chasing outside yourself was always waiting inside, ready to transform not just how you love others, but how you move through the world as a whole person, complete in yourself, overflowing with the very thing you once begged others to give you.